Hi, welcome back to the Christmas calendar, and it is day 2 and we are going to implement all of the code needed for the Facebook login with Firebase's Firestore connection. So without further ado, let's get into the code. Alrighty then, so we are going to finally do some coding. We did some amazing setup in the previous video, and now we are going to code it all out. So first, what do we need to do? Well, let's start off with the app delegate. And first of all, for Firebase to work, all we need to add here in the application did finish launching with options is type in here Spark and start. Okay, and that takes care of all over the Firebase's setup. That is pretty amazing, isn't it? So we will talk about Spark in a later video, hopefully the next video. Okay, now what we want to add next is for Facebook, and for that we need to import two frameworks, and the first one is Facebook Core and the second one is FB SDK Core Kit. Okay, that is it. And what we want to add here, and I just copied it out because it is quite cumbersome, so I just pasted under the application did finish launching with options. It is this application open URL source application and annotation. So we are returning this shared instance of our application. That is great. Now the next step is optional, but you could add it. So you enable the basic analytics in Facebook. So let's just scroll down in did become active, application did become active, and type in here application events logger and activate and application. Okay, that is it. And when we run it, you will see from a time period that in the Facebook log you will have here Facebook analytics or something like that. Okay, so that is optional. You don't really need to do that, but it is a good thing to have it, so you may take a look at the analytics your app has. Okay. Now let's go to our, not the service, because the service is just some base colors and button corner radiuses. Let's go to our root view controller, which is a UI tab bar controller. So first of all, let's just scroll down and take a look at the file. It is basically view did load, view will appear, view will disappear, and set up view controllers. And here we add our home controller, user profile controller to our view controllers. Pretty basic stuff. And we have our check logged in user status. Now, when the root view controller is presented, when the view will appear, we want to check for this logged in user status. Now, Firebase suggests that we should create an Auth handler. So let's create a variable handler, and it will be an, first of all, let's import Auth, Firebase Auth. Here we go. Great. Now the handler should be our Auth state did change listener handle. So that is quite a lot, and I believe it needs to be an optional. Okay, so what we want to add in our view will appear is a listener. So let us just initialize our handle here. So handler equals auth, and add a state did change listener here, and just hit return there, and we get back an auth and a user, where we are not going to use those. Instead, we are just going to copy and paste this check logged in user status method here. Now, what we want to do, we need to add self. Okay. In the view did disappear, we want to drop this listener. So what we are going to do now is, first of all, guard unwrap our handler. So guard, let's add the guardlet statement here, and it will be our handler. I'm just copy and pasting it here. Oh, sorry about that. Here we go. And then if nothing, we don't have our handler, then we just simply return. And as you can see, we are not using our handler, so let's just use it now. So let's remove this handler. Auth and remove state change listener, and we just pass in handler here. Now, that is it for checking the logged in user state. Okay, so once the view did appear or view will disappear, we are adding this handler or removing it. Okay, now what about this check logged in user status? Well, it is pretty simple. We are going to check if we do have a current user. So if auth current user equals nil, then we are going to basically show the view controller. Let me just correct this. So we are going to pop up the welcome view controller, and let's just create our controller here, and it will be our welcome controller, and we want to present it in the navigation controller. So let's create our nav controller, and it will be a UI navigation controller, and with a root view controller of our controller that we have just created. And we want to simply present it. So self present view controller, and that is our nav controller, animated true, completion nil. And we want to return. We don't want to do anything else. Now, we need to be careful about this, because this is basically doing some UI changes, and this check logged in user status is in a completion handler. So what we want to do is wrap all of this in dispatch queue .main.async. Basically, we are grabbing the main thread and doing all of this inside there. Okay, and that is it for our check logged in user status. We are checking if we do have a current user. If not, we are presenting our welcome controller. I believe it is time for a build and run. So let's build and run that. Okay, build has succeeded. It's always a good sign. And of course, because we do not have our current user in our auth, then we are being presented with our welcome screen. Pretty great stuff. Okay, let's go further. Let's just stop this and take a look, let's say, at the welcome controller. Now we need to add quite a lot in this welcome controller. First of all, let's take a look at what we do have here. We have our HUD, our sign in with Facebook button, and we have a target added to it, handle sign in with Facebook button tabbed. That is great. And we have our navigation item title, and we simply added our sign in with Facebook button to the center of our view. Okay, now let's talk about this handle sign in with Facebook button tabbed. Now we are going to use Spark for that. But first, let me just scroll all the way up, and as you can see, we have a HUD here. So let's present a HUD first. So HUD dot text label equals, and I believe let's just type in signing in with Facebook. Okay, pretty simple. And then let's show our HUD in view, and that is our simple view. Now that will be showing. Let's just test this out. What do we have here? An error. Yes, we need to add the text property here. Okay, so let's run this once again and see that we will have our label, a HUD with our label. So let's tap on that, and it is signing in with Facebook. Okay, pretty great. Let's just stop this now and let us just create the sign in with Facebook function. Okay, so let's just type in Spark and sign in with Facebook. Now we need to provide our UI view controller, so that is self, and we have a completion handler. So let's hit return there, and as you can see we have 3 parameters, and the first one is a message, and I will get back to that in just a moment. We have our error, which is optional, and we have a Spark user. So Spark user. So we do get back a Spark user. First thing we need to get rid of is the error. So if let error equals error, then what do we want to do? Well, first of all, we want to return. We don't want to go further, but before that we want to close, stop the HUD from playing. So you just need to type in Spark service and dismiss HUD, and you just type in here self HUD, because we are in a completion handler, and with the text, let's say I believe that if we do have an error, then we get back an error message and the message what all of that means. So let me just type in here message and an error. Okay, so this will type out something like no internet connection because of error and the error. But we still need to have this localized, so here we have our localized description. Okay, let's add this to the detail text rather. So I will just cut this out, add it to the detail text, and for the text, that would be the title, I will just type in simply error. Okay, and the delay, let's add it to 3, because after 3 seconds, this HUD should be dismissed. So next thing we want to get is our Spark user, and that is an optional again. So I would just guard let unwrap it. So guard let, let's just copy this out, Spark user equals Spark user else. And if we don't have it, okay, we want to return again, and we want to dismiss it, dismiss the HUD with another error message, and that is not the localized description. We just want to add in here, okay, and it will be delayed for 3 seconds. Okay, now if we do have a Spark user, then everything went fine and we can use that. And what we are going to do now is simply print it out. So print, let me just add in here our Spark user. Okay, what do we want to do next? Well, we want to present, we want to dismiss our HUD by presenting this information. So let me just copy it again and paste it in here. So we have our 3 seconds, we are dismissing our HUD, and this time it is success, and successfully signed in with Facebook will be our detailed text. Okay, and finally we want to, let's say, dismiss our welcome controller, and to do that we just simply type in self dot dismiss animated true and completion nil. But because we are on a background thread, we want to grab our main thread and we want to make this dismission on the 3rd second after the HUD has been dismissed too. So let's just type in dispatch queue main async after, and we need a deadline and this execute. So the deadline will be, let's say 3 seconds. So let's create when. So let when equals dispatch time. There we go. Now, and let's add in here 3 seconds. So let's add our when to the deadline. And we will execute our code here. So let's just cut this out and paste it in there. I believe we are done with this function. So let's just test it out again. We are presenting our HUD, signing in with Facebook with the help of Spark, which I will be talking about in the next video. And we are handling the error messages if there are Spark user. If we do get it, then we are simply just printing it out. Okay, and let's see what happens. So there we go. Let us just build and run and see if I did add everything correctly. Okay, here we go. We have our login with Facebook button. Let's click on that. Let's click on continue. It is loading up. Let's continue as Alex. Signing in with Facebook. Let's just wait for it. It can take a while, and here we have successfully signed in with Facebook. And we have dismissed the welcome view controller. How awesome is that? Okay, let's just take a look at this profile. And as you know, we have our username, user UID, and user email here. Here we will have our user profile image and our sign out button and a fetch user. So let's just stop that and go to our user profile controller, because in our home view controller we don't have anything. We have a background color and our navigation items title is home. So what we need to do now is go to our user profile controller, and that is the last controller that we are going to talk about in this video and the last bit of our code. A little tricky, but it is, once you understand it, fairly straightforward. So let's take a look at our user profile controller. And here we have our HUD, our profile image view, name label, UID label, email label, and our view did load, where we have our background color, our title for our navigation item, and two bar bottom items, our right one and our left one, and we have our targets on them, handle sign out button tab and handle fetch user button tab. Okay, and here they are, handle fetch user button tab and handle sign out button tab. Now in the handle fetch user button tab we have our fetch current user, and that is down here. And of course we could add this everything in here, our handle fetch user button, but we would prefer to add it in the fetch current user, because after we are setting up our views, we could just simply call it in the view did load. And that is it. We are setting up our views, adding all of our elements to the view and anchoring them accordingly. Okay, now let's take a look at our first thing we need to do. Here is our sign out button tab. So we are going to sign out. And again, with Spark, this is fairly simple. So let's just type in here Spark and log out, and let's hit the completion, and we have our result here and our error. So let's take a look at our error. If let error equals error, then we will return. But before we do that, let's just create an alert. So Spark service, and here we have our show alert, and we will use this one with a title and message, and the style should be alert. Okay, title, let's see, error, or rather yet sign out error, and the message, failed to sign out with error. And let's add our errors localized description here. Okay, now that we have taken care of the error, we want to take a look at the result. And if the result is true, then we are going to present our welcome controller. Otherwise, then let's just create another alert here, and I just copy and paste that in there, and I will delete this error. Failed to sign out. Okay, and that is it. And maybe we want to return, but we are not going to add any code here. So if the result is true, then let us just create our and I believe I would just simply copy all of this out from the root view controller. Okay, here we go. And we are presenting it, and I believe this should work. So let's see what happens if I just tap on the sign out button. Let's build and run again. And hopefully we will get signed out. Okay, let's tap on our user profile. Let's click on sign out. And again, yes, we are presented with the welcome view controller. Pretty great stuff. And let me just change that typo again. Here we go. Where is, there it is, welcome. Okay, now let's go back to our user profile controller and finally talk about the fetching of our current user, because that is the most hardest part. Now we will need a HUD, so let me just type in here HUD, text label, text, and it should be, let's say, fetching user, okay, and HUD show in view. Okay, now we are having taken care of our HUD. We want to fetch our current user, and we want to fetch it with Facebook. So now that we have our HUD, we want to fetch our current user, and it is pretty simple with Spark again. So Spark fetch current Spark user, and that is what we are trying to do, because we are not fetching a Spark user with a UID because we don't know the UID just yet. It is all taken care with Spark. So let me just hit there. And what we get back again is a message, an error that is optional, and a Spark user. Okay, first of all, let's take care of the message. So if about the error equals error, then we want to return as usual. And let's see, let us just close the HUD. So Spark service and dismiss HUD self dot HUD with the text error, and the detail text again should be our message followed by our error and the localized description of it, and the delay time, let it be free. Okay, now that we have taken care of the error, we might as well guard unwrap our Spark user. So guard let Spark user equals Spark user, and if we do have this, then if we don't have this, let's return again and add a new message when we are dismissing the HUD, so error, and in the detail text, let's see, we just add again Let's add here an else. Great. And now we have our Spark user. Okay, now that we have our Spark user, and if you go to the Spark models, you will see that a Spark user has a UID, a name, an email, and a profile image URL. Now, we could populate the name, email, and the UID, but the profile image URL, that is just a URL. So we need to download our image from the storage of our Firebase backend. So what we need to do now is go ahead and type in again Spark, and I believe it is fetch profile image. That is it, fetch profile image with a Spark user. So we are going to add in our Spark user, and again we get back a message, an error, and an image. Okay, so let's take a look at the error, and again I will just copy all of this and do the necessary changes. So here we have our error. We will dismiss the HUD with error and the message. That is great. And we want to have our guardlet statement with our image. Let's paste that in there. And there we go. So now we do have our Spark user and we do have our images. So what we want to do is go on the main thread. So go ahead and type in dispatch queue.main.async, and let me just update all of the labels or all of the elements in our view. So the first one, let's say self, let's say profile image view dot image equals image. Okay, and again self dot name label dot text equals name. Let me just go in here, and yep, it needs to be the name needs to be from our Spark user and dot name. Okay, and likewise let's add our UID label dot text, and that is Spark user UID, and again self dot email label dot text and Spark user and email. Okay, and that is pretty straightforward. Now what we want to do next is dismiss the HUD. Now this dismiss HUD is, let me just jump right into it, jump to definition, is also on the main thread, so we don't need to add it to this dispatch queue main async. So let me just copy this dismissal and paste it under there, and it is success and successfully fetched user. That is what I will write here, success, and it will be dismissed after 3 seconds. Okay, that looks pretty clear now, and I believe that is all we need to add. So let's build and run again, and let's fetch the current. Rather yet, let me just again comment this out so we don't get it right away, and then I will uncomment this fetch current user call after that. So there we go. Let us just log in. Let's continue again, signing in with Facebook. Let's just wait for it. There we go, successfully signed in with Facebook, and we are taken to our home screen. Let's go to our user profile, and of course this isn't populated automatically just yet. Let's click on fetch user, and it is fetching user. Success, successfully fetched user. Okay, let me just sign out, and we are signed out. Now let me show you what actually happened on the backend, and that will conclude our tutorial for today. So let us just go to our Firebase app and click on authentication. Here we have our first user. Let's just go to our database. Again, here we have our UID. Of course, here we have our UID as a field, email, name, profile image URL, and let's just go to our storage and check under profile images. We have our image, and just rest assured that Spark is taking care of duplicate images. If you sign out of Facebook like we did just now, and we log in again, the current profile image is deleted and the new one is added instead. Pretty cool, hey? So that is it for this video. Basically, we are ready with the login with Facebook button, and now you can log in, log out, fetch the user data, and so on. And now that we are ready with the code, we are going to dive deep into Spark. I will explain in the next video each and every bit of Spark, of how it works, so you may understand. If you don't really want, then this is it for you. Go ahead and use Spark to your liking and log in with Facebook and Firebase, and of course with the Firestore database. Now I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel, and I dare you to hit that notification bell. And now it's your turn. Go ahead and add this Facebook login button with Firebase into your apps. And as usual, I will see you in the next one.